on how regional partnerships in AI can secure digital sovereignty for developing nations without being concerned by global tech rivalries?
Thank you, Prime Minister Peng. That is the expert actually, but then you see there's a paradigm shift now. Because AI so penetrative, so compelling that it covers the whole spectrum of governance and daily life that we leaders have no choice but to try and grasp this new technology. Now, second issue which relates to the issue of governance is sovereignty. Governments are there to protect sovereignty. But then the word sovereignty actually predates new technology. It has to be reviewed, repurposed to protect the security, yes, of the nation, but at the same time to allow for this new space to accord companies and operations in the cloud within the sovereign area, but still totally independent of national laws, excepting for protecting borders and security. So that's why I believe that we in Malaysia, for example, have accepted this. We'll have to introduce new legislation to accept the fact that sovereignty must be viewed so as to be seen to be able to transform that technology and allow AI to operate independently without having to subject itself to the laws of the country, which means like what we have given to the embassies in the old system. So I think we are safe at that. On the third issue on the regional, global perspective, because the very fact that we deal with a new technology is not national, is not sub-regional. It has to be global. Now our initiative in Malaysia, thanks to ASEAN and of course GCC, to be able to participate, and in fact GCC played a very prominent role. Initially, of course, it was the initiative in Saudi Arabia with GCC, but then when we initiated discussions with UAE, with Sheikh MBZ, Mohammed bin Zayed, and then extend to Kuwait Chairmanship, there was a tacit agreement that we should expand this sort of geopolitical consideration into more serious considerations affecting investments, trade, including the new technology. China, because it is an important neighbor in our country, but that having said that, I must emphasize here that for us in Malaysia, for example, United States remain number one cumulatively and at present investor in Malaysia. 60% of our E&A is exported to the United States. So we have to navigate this as a global strategy, not purely dictated by national or regional interests, but to push forward for the AI strategy to cover the global understanding and a new mindset that predates, I'm sorry, the whole AI, as I said, predates new technology because the new technology compels and demands. If you want to accept AI, then you cannot be thinking of sovereignty in the old school of thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Yama Bormat. But in your view, Yama Bormat, what are your views about the hope, but also what are your concerns about AI for a nation like Malaysia and for ASEAN?
Well, Peng seems to be very bullish. I share his views. But there are concerns and legitimate concerns which we can address. I'm not suggesting that it is insurmountable. But we're dealing with human beings. And there are concerns expressed about values, about the whole reconstruction of our understanding of history, about identity, can we then consider this as part of the whole exercise in venturing into new technology? Their views about why now globalization. Globalization means to be dictated by a technology and the supremacy of the West, is the thinking. But of course we have to debunk this. Debunk this through understanding and knowledge, to suggest that, as I said, Makkah, Medina, for 1,000 years have been a center of globalization in the sense that it was a cosmopolitan center. Oman, a major trading center. Malacca Sultanate was a cosmopolitan center, which ships all over the world. In 1452, Cheng He traveled throughout the world. I mean, if you view this, then you give this sense of identity and purpose and dignity for these countries. It is important. Now, secondly, I think the issue is, what about values? Can human beings be dictated purely by this new technology and machines? That is why our education is a challenge. Can we replace AI? We can't. But we can, for example, impart and infuse to protect our identity, our faith, our personality, through inculcation of values. Because what is the deficit in the political system these days? What is generally what's considered to be the failure of a global political system now? Is a deficit in terms of value. People don't honor human dignity. There is no concern about justice or fairness. It's just about success and money. So can we avoid AI? No, we can't. But it's our challenge, particularly the national leadership, to ensure that the education, the inculcation of values, what is right, what is wrong, what is just, what is oppressive, because otherwise we just dictated by machines. Now, people do criticize me. They say, Anwar, you are too philosophical. You are giving so much, expressing too much concerns about this environment. No. No way can we slow down. In fact, Malaysia, I want to drive this, get all the legislations in place, get this sovereignty issue resolved. I am determined to push as hard as possible. But I'm also aware that our understanding, our values, our knowledge base cannot be dictated by one particular society or particular values. But how do we resolve this? We resolve this through education, through understanding, through critical thinking. I mean, the whole idea of AI is to allow for other views, but then we are not imparting the correct value. I mean, I don't know, we maybe seem to be quite irrelevant to Peng, I don't know, but I strongly feel that, we have to couple this. Can we deal with this? My answer is yes. After all, when we talk about, and if you know the antecedents, or historical antecedents, you would realize that at the time when you had the initial industrial revolution, this whole debate was part of the debate. People who talks about dehumanization of man. In my days there was Herbert Marcuse and Erik Erikson. Those political thinkers who actually cautioned again about the obsession about industrialization. But the problem is became a conflict between those who are for industrialization and who are against. We can't repeat that mistake. We must be for new technology, for AI, unreservedly, but at the same time, we understand human values, we understand the basic flaws of dehumanization that's happening, which is not necessarily tied to AI, but will not be strengthened by AI except you impart the right values. I mean, I happen to be a politician, but I realize the flaws, the hypocrisy, the contradictions, the tolerance of gross injustice and oppression all in the name of new technology, of new progress, and this is to me unacceptable. Because after all, we must promote reason and justice. I mean, I'm not confining particularly to the situation, the devastation in Gaza, but just one example. How, with all this new technology and AI, we fail to resolve a basic question of human dignity. I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat.
Before that, just because many of our friends from GCC are here and also ASEAN, many also from China. Let me put this point. This is our first real experience in engagement, a serious, substantive engagement between Malaysia and ASEAN with the GCC. Many of our colleagues in ASEAN, of course, they have met, but not entered into very serious, as I said, substantive negotiations on key issues about governance, international issues, and the new technology, including AI, digital transformation, the new energy, alternative energy. But I must say, it was not easy. 2 days of hard work, of intensive, tiring discussions. But you'll be surprised to know that GCC and ASEAN could finally enter into common understanding on key issues. And to me, this is a beginning, because when you have leaders having that sort of a mindset, promoting new technology and change, and it could not have happened because if we do not have this basic trust with one another. And with ASEAN, I can understand because we meet all the time. But for ASEAN and GCC to then agree on these fundamental issues, and that was the reason why China was persuaded to then follow through. Because when you have these key economies, as I've always said, that ASEAN is still relatively the most peaceful region in the world, faster growing economy, and the GCC, which is phenomenal growth and change in terms of alternative renewable energy and digital transformation, AI. We have that. I am personally extremely excited, really. I mean, nobody in the right mind would expect us to agree on this. I mean, I would suggest that you read this, the agreed statement signed by all these countries, because this was not what we anticipated. We anticipated some sort of a basic general understanding. But then when the leaders met, we said, look, there's no point having all this facade of having, big international conferences if we cannot persuade the team to come up with very substantive agreement, of focusing basically, of course, on technology and investments and trade, but at the same time touching on very contentious issues on international issues. So let me then express my personal satisfaction to you, and to prove that this has to work and this can be executed finally by the understanding by the capitals of industry and the business community. Thank you, shukran, 谢谢.